All right, welcome to the Science Hutch. Thanks for joining me, physicists. We are talking about free body diagrams. Before coming into this lesson, you should already know what vectors are. You should know you draw them with arrows. You should know that the length represents the magnitude, and then obviously you point the arrow in the direction. Today, we're drawing force vectors on these free body diagrams. You only draw forces on free body diagrams, and I am using a cool handout from the physics teacher. This is a nice resource here. We're just going to talk about what forces to look for here. We're going to make a little checklist, and then we're going to get into actually solving some in the next video. So the first thing to look for is the weight of an object. The weight of an object is always going to be straight to the center of the earth. It doesn't matter what the object is doing, and I like to label the weight vectors as a force with a subscript lowercase g to represent the gravitational force on an object. The next thing you're going to look for is normal force. You're going to look for the object touching a surface, and the normal force is always going to be exactly normal to, which means perpendicular to the surface there. And I'm going to label that capital F and then a subscript N. The next one you're going to look for are friction forces, and I like to look at three different friction forces here. Static, meaning still, the objects are still compared to each other, and I'm going to label that capital F for force, lowercase subscript f for friction, and a lowercase subscript s for static. And then kinetic friction, kinetic means moving, so the object is sliding across a surface. And we're going to use a K instead of an S in the subscripts there. And then air friction, also known as drag, also known as air resistance. And I'm going to use F with a subscript A and a subscript R for force of air resistance. Also, you're going to look for tension force, force of tension. We're going to look for ropes, like we have two ropes here. And you just point the tension right along the ropes because it exists inside of those. And we say one rope, one tension. So for each different rope, you label little subscripts 1 and 2 to show you have two different tensions. And those tensions are balancing out with the weight of the rock in that case. And then lastly, we're going to look for forces in a spring, or sometimes called spring forces, and you just write F with a subscript S for that. You have to actually physically see springs in this situation, so you know if you don't see a spring in this situation, then you don't have a force in the spring. Hey, all right, we got our checklist of forces to look for on free body diagrams in AP Physics 1. Thanks for joining me, and you keep on physicsing. Let's do some examples in the next video.